plant in the world today. And I got to tell you, David, this is the only thing that is the best and largest in the world outside of the state of Washington. And so I'm happy to be here. And I am thrilled to be here to think that these folks are not only giving us clean water, but cleaner air by reducing carbon dioxide pollution. What a great achievement. And they're creating enough electricity. This is an electricity generating plant to power 7,500 homes. And they're doing it because they got great union skilled workers here, of these two folks that understand that we can have good paying jobs at the time we have clean energy. And I want to thank Alexandria for joining us. Her leadership has been incredible. I saw her in action. I'll see her in action again tomorrow in New York. Can we have a round of applause for her and her generation that are going to lead to clean energy? Thanks, Alexandria. I'm going to talk about my plan for a clean energy economy in a moment, but I have to get something off my chest first. And that is, while I've been on this run for the presidency, I have seen Americans who have been damaged and injured and traumatized by the abject failure of this White House and this federal government to protect them from the scourge of the climate crisis. I've looked into the eyes of Marcia Moss, a woman in Seminole Springs, California, in a community of about 100 mobile homes that was leveled because of the Woolsey fire. And we know our fires are going to double in the next decades because of carbon pollution. And when you look into her eyes and you realize that she has no one protecting her in Washington, D.C., it just makes your blood boil. Yesterday I was in Davenport, Iowa. I met a woman named Regina Haddock. Regina is a courageous leader in her community. She started a program called Dress for Success. It helps women who've kind of been down on their luck, a lot of single mothers, get clothing so when they go out for a job interview, they can feel proud of themselves. And a flood, this titanic flood that has swept the Midwest, has now ruined this nonprofit. And when you look at Regina, who has been such a leader in her community, and understand that her dreams now have been on hold and not have help from Washington, D.C., that makes my blood boil. It is time for the people of fire and flood to have a president who will stand up and protect them from the ravages of climate change and this climate crisis. And I'm going to do everything I can to make sure Americans have that and a plan to get that job done. So today, I'm announcing my plan for the Evergreen Economy, a plan to put 8 million Americans to work, and not just any job, but good-paying jobs across the United States of America. And I am proud to offer it to the American people. This plan is built on 4 principles. Number 1, it is built on the principle that Americans always invent the future. We are never shackled to the past. We are never shackled to the technologies of centuries ago. We always invent the future because it is in our nature to invent, to create, to build. And that is deep in the American breast. And I hearken back to what John F. Kennedy said at Rice University. He said, you know, we choose to go to the moon not because it's easy and do the other things, but because it is hard, because it organizes and measures the best energies and innovative talents of Americans. And I'm offering the Evergreen Economy plan to do that yet again, to call us forward to yet a great national mission, to invent yet a brighter future for Americans. The second principle is pretty simple. We need a full, complete, 100% mobilization of the United States economy to defeat the climate crisis and put 8 million people to work. Look, in this case, half measures are not good enough. We did not defeat just half of our enemies in World War II, another existential threat to our future. We defeated all of them. And while people in Iowa are seeking high ground from the floods this week, we cannot have a middle ground proposal to build a clean energy future. We need a full-throated, robust, and complete mobilization of the United States economy. And I'm offering Americans a plan to do just that. And for people who say, those fearful people who are pessimistic that we can't do this, we can't mobilize our economy, look what we did in the 1940s. Just think about this. In 1940, the U.S. economy produced exactly 77 Jeeps. 77. 4 years later, the U.S. economy had produced 640,000 Jeeps to defeat fascism. If we can do that, we can build new high-tech measures across our advanced manufacturing sector, just like we're doing at the Blue Plains Clean Water Treatment Plant in Washington, D.C. So we are offering a plan that is both scientifically sound and economically not just going to build any old job. We need high-paying, family wage jobs to rebuild the middle class, with a major proponent of people who understand the power of unions, like these two skilled workers behind us, to grow a new economy. Here's what I believe. We got to restore the ability of people to be in a union. We've got to stop the employer intimidation that has frustrated people who want to join a union. We got to understand that a major reason that half the people in America haven't had a raise for 20 years is because we've had a decline in union membership. And here's what I believe. The people who brought us the weekend are going to bring us the Evergreen Economy and start wage growth again in the United States of America. I fundamentally believe that. And we know we can do that because we have done it before. So we are embedding the union movement, we are embedding higher minimum wages, and we are moving forward with better wages in this economy. And by the way, Donald Trump says we got such a great economy. Oh yeah? Talk to half the United States workers who haven't had a raise in 20 years. It's time for those folks to have a raise. They're producing more productivity. It's time to make sure that they get a raise in America. The fourth principle that this is built on is the reason we called it the Evergreen Economy. Now, it's obvious that it's an evergreen economy because we need an economy that's sustainable over the decades. And ours is not today because of the climate crisis that our pollution is causing. But it's evergreen for another reason. It's evergreen because it is built on known successes in the evergreen state, and that's Washington State. If you want to see what a clean energy economy can look like, come to my state, the state with the greatest GDP growth, the fastest wage growth, clean energy jobs that are growing like it is nationally twice as fast as the rest of the economy. We have just been named in Washington State the best place to do business and the best place to live by U.S. News World Report and the best place to work by Oxfam. And it is not despite the fact that we're building a clean energy economy. It's because we are building a clean energy economy. It's time for the fruits of a clean energy economy that we are growing in Washington State to be enjoyed by Americans all across the country. And the Evergreen Economy Plan will make sure that that works. So we're doing 5 strategic things in this plan. 1, we're igniting America's clean energy economy with our 100% clean energy plan. 2, we're making the largest investments in American infrastructure since we built the interstate freeway system, putting Americans to work in every community across the United States. 3rd, we're going to make sure that we build advanced manufacturing jobs across the United States by restoring the economic competitiveness of our manufacturing sector. 4th, We're making long overdue investments in research and development, quintupling our investment in research and development, just like we did in World War II, just like we did when we went to the moon. We will do that today, again, in the Evergreen Economy. And fifth, we'll make sure that these jobs are high-paying, family-wage jobs. That's the destiny. It's the way to defeat income inequality. At the same time, we are defeating carbon pollution. This is a job we've got to get down to it. So I want to thank everybody who's involved in this effort. I believe it is a time for doing big things. I will tell you, my plan is a big, bold, ambitious plan, but it is fitting for a big, bold, and ambitious nation. Let's get this job done. Thanks a million. Let's go rebuild the U.S. economy. Thanks a lot. And with that, happy to stand for some questions. Yes?
So, in releasing this plan, are you drawing a sharp contrast with former Vice President Joe Biden? You put out a statement last week criticizing half measures to solve the climate crisis. What specifically is that contrast with Biden on this plan?
Well, I'll just tell you what I believe in. I believe that we have to have a plan that is both scientifically sound and economically viable. And if you start your assessment that you have to be moderate or be in the middle ground, you're going to leave people under flood seeking the high ground in Iowa, which is happening today. And we need a full-throated mobilization of the U.S. economy. Nothing else will be satisfactory. So what I've done, I've said that we need 100% clean energy in our electrical grid by 2035. I've said we have to be half off of coal by 2030. I hope others will join me. I hope Joe Biden will join me. And when he puts out a plan, we'll say, Inslee's right. We need to do those things. We need to have clean cars by 2030. And I hope that all the candidates will do that. Now, so far, none of the candidates have followed my leadership yet. And I welcome them to the party here, because we got to get going. And I'm a proud Democrat. And I believe Democrats are optimistic. I believe we stand for building a middle class. And I believe we don't stand for half measures. We need a full meal deal. So that's the offer I'm giving to the American people. Yeah.
Why do you think more of these policies weren't put in place during the Obama years, and why do you think you can succeed when they fail?
Well, I think that this is really, look, the Obama administration did some great things for us. And we're going to restore the executive action that Trump has tried to repeal. By the way, he has largely failed because I've sued him 21 times and I beat Donald Trump 21 times. I kind of like to celebrate that, actually. So he has been unsuccessful because they're so brain dead. These people could not run a two-car funeral. So he has been unsuccessful repealing a lot of the progress during the Obama era. But we have a new day. We have a new scientific assessment of what is necessary. And I do believe we have a magic moment. It is a marriage of a moment of great urgency. It is no longer a line on a graph. It's Paradise, California, burned to the ground. It's Hamburg, Iowa, a town founded in 1858 that never flooded and was wiped out by the floods that I visited a couple months ago. So now people are seeing that with their own eyes how urgent this problem is. And at the same time, it is married by this explosion of clean energy jobs. Look, I was arguing with Meghan McCain on The View a few weeks ago. She was saying, oh, you Democrats are going to take away people's cars. What a bunch of baloney. I pointed out to her that I'm driving a new General Motors all-electric Bolt that the governor of Washington's driving. It's made by the UAW members in Orion, Michigan. It's the electric battery manufacturers in Nevada. It's the wind turbines that Donald Trump says cause cancer that are causing job growth all across Iowa. So we have this magic moment of Americans realizing the urgency of this climate crisis, together with realizing the new jobs that these gentlemen represent with good, highly skilled union workers. They only need one thing. They need an ignition point. They need the same type of leadership that Kennedy gave us to go to the moon, and FDR said we're going to defeat fascism. And that means you energize and mobilize the best energies and innovative talents of America. And if I'm given this noble honor, I intend to be that spark. America needs it. Yes?
I didn't come up with a comparison, but when you're driving at high speed, it doesn't matter if you're hitting the wall at 100 miles per hour or 100 miles per hour, either way you're headed. How do you know that your plan will help avoid the worst effects of climate change?
Well, so far, there is only one plan offered by any candidate of any party that will say we're going to eliminate the use of coal, which we have to do as a scientific certainty. There is only one plan of any party that will say we have to have clean electricity by 2035, and that is a scientific certainty. You know, people have tried to sort of suggest where my plan is on the ideological scale. I actually think that's not the right way to ask it. I think we need to ask us, where does my plan fit on the scientific scale as to whether we're going to rescue America from the ravages of climate change? And we are at the top of that scale. Frankly, other people said we can kind of slide through this. We can kind of ignore the science. It's just too hard. That's the Donald Trump vision. Look, Donald Trump is an insecure, small-minded pessimist who doesn't believe that Americans can do what we've done historically in a technological basis. I'm the can-do candidate. I'm the optimist. I'm the person who believes we can build ourselves and innovate ourselves over any challenge. And that's where I stand, and we're going to avoid that cliff.
Kind of scurrying around criticism of Joe Biden. I know you put out a statement last week. You just said in this speech, we cannot have a middle ground proposal to build a clean energy future. I just want to ask you point blank, what do you think Joe Biden doesn't understand about climate change that you do understand?
Well, first off, I was concerned, like most everyone was, of the comments coming out of his campaign. But I will reserve judgment until we see what Joe Biden actually proposes, and I will wait and see if he can match the commitments that I have made to the American people. If he does that, I think it will be a great day for the Democratic Party. But to do so, he's going to have to up his game and say categorically, we cannot be shackled to coal jobs forever. It will kill us on health and economics and create a national security crisis. He's going to have to say that we have to remove our reliance on fossil fuels in our electrical grid. I have not seen to date any suggestion that he can do that. Now let me address why I think some people have concern about this. We know we have to have a transition to a clean energy economy. And transitions involve change. And change sometimes have challenges. Look, we've got people across this country who've worked in the coal industry who are dignified, hardworking Americans who deserve every bit of support and respect of anybody working in Silicon Valley or anyone else in America. Their families, their past generations built the industrial might of the United States. And those families and those communities deserve a transition plan to help them. That is why what I've done in my plan is build on the kind of things we've done in Washington for our coal families. So in Centralia, Washington, where we are transitioning off of our last coal-fired plant, we just didn't turn off the plant and not think about these people. We've built a transition plan of a $55 million plan to help with new jobs, new community investment, new training. And I have fashioned this national proposal of what we did in Washington State. I've proposed a GI Bill. Think about it as a GI Bill for coal workers. I think of that as the generational investment plan for coal workers. We need to guarantee their pensions. Look, their bosses are thinking about going bankrupt and shortcutting the pensions for these families. We got to protect them. By the way, Donald Trump has seen nothing but a continued degradation of coal because of the price of other cheaper forms of electricity. I'm proposing not only to help with their training and education, but we got to get them jobs. It's not good enough to have education. You got to have jobs. Mustafa understands that, and these got to be jobs that help every family. And they got to be jobs not only in coal country, they've got to be in the first victims of of climate change, which are marginalized communities, communities of color, so we can put the investments like we did in Spartanburg, South Carolina that I visited a couple of weeks ago, the Regenesis project, which has now got low-income housing with solar panels on the roof because Harold Mitchell's led that effort. That's the kind of thing we got to do. So I think some people fear that we can't address environmental justice and economic growth at the same time we're defeating climate change. They are wrong. And if you want to know how wrong they are, come see the state of Washington. I'll show you a great future for clean energy jobs. Yes? You know, I wish that the current occupant of the White House had 25% of the scientific acumen of Alexandria. And if he had 25% of his understanding of physics and chemistry and basic science, he could not make the foolish statement that we can continue to pump out unlimited amounts of carbon dioxide and not destroy the planet as we know it. The people in her generation fully understand that. What is it that he doesn't get? You know, I heard my friend Bill Nye the other day do kind of an interesting video that said, you know, why don't you knuckleheads grow up? And I don't know any other way to describe that. Because her generation, and every scientist in the United States who's ever studied this, understand that if we remained a prisoner to fossil fuels to the mid-century, we're not going to recognize this beautiful country. We will not have agricultural land that is not flooded routinely. We will not have air to breathe in Seattle, Washington on a summer's day because of the forest fires. We will not have small communities in the pine forests that aren't burning down. We're not going to have more people getting cancer and respiratory problems because of the pollution. And importantly, we won't have anything but a degraded economy. Look, people say, how are we going to pay this? I asked Donald Trump, how are you going to pay for Paradise, California? How are you going to pay for the $1.5 billion of losses to our farm community? How are you going to pay Miami Beach for having to raise up Main Street 1.5 feet? That's the question we got to be asking. So this, you know, $900 billion investment I make is the cheap, inexpensive way to save us from this massive loss of the American economy. So let's get Alexandria here and get her a half-hour Donald Trump. I think she should try to talk some sense into him. Until then, let's just get a new president. Okay, thanks a lot. Good luck.